I love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
What's up, the homies? Leighton here for UFC Gambling Addicts, back again for another UFC full card breakdown and predictions video. That's how we start this one, guys. We spark up to start this one, man, because there's some fights on this card. Fire. The main event, Davison Figueiredo taking on Brandon Moreno. And even the co-main event, I mean, Tony Ferguson taking on Charles Oliveira. There's a bunch of really good matchups on this card. As always, before we get into the breakdowns, make sure you smash the like button, aka the hams up button. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that too. Alright homies, let's get into it. First fight, we have Chase Hooper taking on Peter Barrett, and we're going to start with Chase. So Chase comes into this fight 1 win, 1 loss inside the UFC. Primarily a jiu-jitsu practitioner, a lifelong jiu-jitsu player. Chase was able to display his ground game in his UFC debut, not so much in his most recent fight against Alex Caceres. Chase wasn't really able to take down Alex like most of us felt he would, which meant that he was kept in a kickboxing battle. Even when both guys initiated in the grappling and engaged in that type of fight, again, Alex showed his experience in that type of fight, and Chase Hooper wasn't really effective. Having said that though, Chase Hooper is still a lifelong jiu-jitsu practitioner, and he's still dangerous when it comes to fighting on the mat. The opponent, Peter Barrett, comes into this fight 0 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Debuted against a fighter that all of us appreciate in Youssef Zalal, Peter was dropped by a nasty back kick to the face in that first round. Somehow was still able to find himself back on the feet. Peter Barrett really showed his toughness in that matchup. He does have a tough matchup against arguably the best jiu-jitsu player he would have fought to date in Chase Hooper. However, if Peter Barrett can keep this fight standing, he really should be showing his Muay Thai style, looking to land a lot of low kicks. If this fight hits the mat, Chase Hooper most likely finds that submission. It's not often that I change my mind on a pick, guys. It's really not. All week I have been leaning towards Peter Barrett, but I am gonna side with Chase Hooper. I've changed my mind on this one. I think the small octagon really helps Chase Hooper initiate with his game plan, and if he's able to get the fight to the mat, I think ultimately he does find that submission. Can Peter Barrett surprise us and keep it on the feet? I mean, I was kind of leaning towards that way, but I'm going to change my mind and I'm going to side here with the jiu-jitsu fighter. I just think with the small octagon, Chase most likely gets it done. My numbers would be Chase Hooper minus 150, Peter Barrett plus 120. And the actual numbers, by the way, crazy, no shock. Chase Hooper minus 400, Peter coming back plus 300, which is, I mean, there's so much value there on Peter Barrett if he can fight his fight, stay on the feet, use his Muay Thai. I wouldn't bet on Chase Hooper, and I think if you do bet on Chase Hooper, I think you should probably take the sub prop, you know. Peter Barrett, could he get a TKO? Probably not. Maybe a decision. I think the line's pretty crazy, but the pick is going to be Chase Hooper. Sergey Spivak versus Jared Vanderaa, and we're going to start with Spivak. So Spivak comes into this fight 2 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC. Thinking back to Spivak's UFC debut, which was over pretty quickly against Walt Harris, Spivak has evolved, man. He's evolved fight by fight. He done very well in his last fight against Carlos Felipe, an aggressive pressure boxer. Against Marcin Tybura, you know, it was kind of close. I took Tybura in that fight. I can remember the odds being minus 110 each, thinking, you know, this is a steal on Tybura. But it played out kind of close. And by close, I mean Spivak competed. The opponent, Jared Vanderaa, comes into this fight 11 wins, 4 losses as a pro, making his UFC debut. Got a contract on the UFC Contender Series. Jared was able to finish that fight on the mat with ground and pound. However, before getting that finish, Jared took some nasty punches on the feet. Really showed his chin in that Contender Series fight. Spivak seems to be the better striker, in my opinion. His kicking ability is definitely there. The composure in his boxing against Carlos Felipe, also very noticeable. Jared most likely has to take this fight to the mat, but that could be a difficult task. Spivak has shown us he isn't really a bad grappler himself. Like in the Tybura fight, you do see him compete. And even against Carlos Felipe, towards the end of that fight, Spivak ended up on top. He started to use his grappling. So I'm going to side with Sergey Spivak purely because I believe he's the better striker and maybe the better grappler too. So I'm going to take Spivak via decision. And I've got a couple heavyweight fights wrong recently. Parker Porter and most recently Volante. So, you know, Spivak, my bro, please, come on. Do me justice. Let's go, Spivak. My numbers, -180 Spivak, +150 Jared. And the actual numbers, we have Spivak, -120, Jared, +200, +190. So yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, Spivak isn't the most elite of heavyweights, but he is improving. You can see the evolution in his game from the UFC debut until now. So yeah, I would agree with those numbers. The pick is going to be Spivak. Moving into the next one, we have Teesha Torres versus Sam Hughes. And we're going to start with Teesha. So Teesha comes into this fight 7 wins, 5 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a kickboxer. Teesha has a lot of high level experience. You just have to look at some of the names on her record. Carla Esparza, Angela Hill, Michelle Waterson, Andrade, Joanna, Weili Zhang. It's fair to say Teesha Torres has fought the best in the world. Granted, she lost most of those matchups, she was still able to compete in these fights. The opponent, Sam Hughes, comes into this fight 5 wins, 1 loss as a pro, making her UFC debut. Sam got this fight on super short notice. From the tape I've seen, she does look like she could have a good career in this sport, but she does look like a fighter that's only had 6 pro fights. Lacks a bit of composure in her game at the moment, like you would expect, but you can see the hunger. She's definitely hungry. The decision has to be the experience for me. I think Teesha Torres most likely has success wherever this fight goes. Kickboxing, wrestling, wherever this fight goes, I think Teesha Torres has more experience there, which most likely shows too. So for those reasons, I'm going to take Teesha Torres via TKO in round number 2. I don't think Teesha Torres has any TKOs in her whole pro career. I could be wrong there, but I don't remember Teesha ever getting it done via TKO. But I'm actually going to take that here. I think this could be a first for Teesha Torres. My numbers would be Teesha -200, Sam +170. Hunger is a very big part of fighting, and that's why I don't price Sam out too much. She does have more hunger than Teesha Torres, in my opinion, but I would still expect the experience to be the result. And the actual numbers, we have Teesha coming in -450, which is, I mean, it's deep, but again, Teesha Torres has a lot of experience. Sam Hughes getting the opportunity on very, very short notice. Is she ready for this step up in competition just 6 fights into her career? I'm going to say no. If she can prove me wrong though, man, I'm impressed. Moving into the next one, we have Billy Quarantino versus Gavin Tucker. Really, really good matchup. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've been smoking already during this breakdown. I mean, I was smoking heavy, right? I went to lay down for 5 minutes and boom, out of nowhere, that's an hour and a half nap. Now you guys don't know that because I haven't gone anywhere for you. You know, you're just listening to the breakdowns, but between Teesha Torres and Billy Quarantino, between these two breakdowns, there was a nice weed nap that took place. So yeah, I'm back now. Billy Quarantino versus Gavin Tucker. Let's get into this one. Billy comes into this fight 3 wins, 0 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a boxer. Billy Quarantino has been awesome to watch, man. The gas tank is one of Billy's most noticeable traits. He can just go and go. Loves to fight at a high pace. The way he set Kyle Nelson down in his last fight, just pure nasty. The opponent, Gavin Tucker, comes into this fight 3 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Primarily a Muay Thai fighter and a Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. Make no mistake, Gavin Tucker is a very skilled fighter. Pretty much an all-rounder. His wrestling is strong, ground game strong, and now the Muay Thai kicks on the feet. Really evolving in his career. Super difficult prediction to make, it really is. I think Billy Quarantino potentially finds success late in the second round, even the last round in this fight. Gavin Tucker most likely finds success in the first round and a half. I think both of these fighters, man, are going to have their good moments in there. Potentially a 15-minute war on our hands. I'm going to side with Billy Q. I like his toughness and his non-stop pace. So purely for those reasons, I'm going to take Billy via decision. My numbers would be Billy Quarantino minus 140, Gavin Tucker plus 110. And the actual numbers are pretty close to that. We've got Billy coming in minus 150, minus 160. Gavin Tucker plus 130, plus 135. So, yeah, I'd agree with those numbers. I mean, Billy Quarantino, man, the guy is tough as nails and he just doesn't stop. He just keeps going and going and going. Mackenzie Dern versus Verna Jandaroba. And we're going to start with Mackenzie. So Mackenzie comes into this fight 4 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. A jiu-jitsu player. A lifelong jiu-jitsu player, similar to Chase Hooper. Mackenzie's only loss came to a jiu-jitsu fighter in Amanda Ribas. Other than that, she's been able to implement her grappling. She's going to be fighting another jiu-jitsu player again, so maybe she can show us some type of improvement with the striking or something like that, because if she is kept on the feet, if she's nullified in the grappling, we're going to have to see some type of improvement there from Mackenzie Dern. The opponent, Verna Jandiroba, comes into this fight 2 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Wrapped up Felice Herrig really quick in her last fight. It looked like a gator just snatching something out of the water, man. It was really high level. Verna did lose in her UFC debut to Carla Esparza. She was taken down a few times in that fight, which showed us that Verna does much better with her grappling when she's either on top of the opponent or on the back of the opponent. If you can put her shoulders flat on the mat, she doesn't seem as effective. This could be a very interesting fight if both fighters look to kickbox, like I said. You know, I would expect to see Mackenzie show us, look, my boxing's coming along, my kicking's coming along. I don't have to rely on my BJJ too much. Ultimately though, I do think we get the grappling at some point. Deciding which fighter ends up on top really is a guess. But if I had to just guess who ends up on top, I'd say Mackenzie Dern, most likely. Has a little bit more success with her grappling. So purely for those reasons, I'm going to take Mackenzie Dern via decision. If she's able to choke Verna out, man, that is impressive. My numbers would be Mackenzie minus 130, Verna plus 100. I really do think this is a difficult matchup to predict. Both of these fighters are really good jiu-jitsu players, so it could take place on the feet. And if it does, it's a close one. The actual numbers, we have Mackenzie coming in minus 190, minus 200. Like she's going to go in there and make really quick work of Verna. If she does, and she warrants that price, I mean, that's high level stuff from Mackenzie Dern, but Werner Jandiroba is a really good grappler. I wouldn't put Mackenzie minus 200. I just wouldn't. Moving into the next one, homies, we have Cub Swanson taking on Daniel Pineda. And we're going to start with Cub. So Cub comes into this fight 11 wins, 7 losses inside the UFC. A veteran's veteran. A real fighter. He's fought the very best competition for years. There isn't something you could show Cub Swanson that he hasn't already seen. He's coming off a win to Kron Gracie. He was able to keep that fight standing, which eliminated the danger of Kron Gracie. Has to be said though, Kron really showed toughness in that fight. Wasn't able to get it down to the mat to use the BJJ, but man, he trains with the Diaz brothers. He took some of those punches really well. The opponent, Daniel Pineda, comes into this fight 4 wins, 4 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a grappler. Made his comeback to the UFC not too long ago against Herbert Burns. Big upset win. Daniel had success wrestling Herbert Burns to the mat. Finished that fight in the crucifix position. One of the most dominant positions you could ever find yourself in on the mat. The type of position that takes your soul, in all honesty. Another tough prediction to make on this card. It is a really good card with these matchups. Cub Swanson is absolutely experienced enough, in my opinion, to compete in the grappling with Daniel Pineda. But the key word is compete. He isn't going to beat Daniel Pineda in the grappling. Where Cub Swanson finds success in this fight, it's on the feet, it's kickboxing. But to be able to do that, he's got to be able to get back to his feet and not get stuck on the mat. Personally, I think he can do that. So for those reasons, I'm going to take Cub Swanson via decision. Basically to just outpoint Daniel Pineda when he's in those kickboxing situations. Alright the homies, you know what time it is. If you waited to smoke with me, amen. If you've been smoking this whole time, double amen. If you're not a smoker, but you enjoy the smoke breaks, triple amen. Let's go. Alright the homies, I hope all of you are doing blessed, having a real blessed day, physically, mentally, spiritually, all of that good stuff. I hope you are all blessed. So I'm going to give you guys a training update. Training, man. I love training. I absolutely love training. And last week's message was about physical discipline. And I had a couple messages come to me saying, hey, man, thank you. Thank you for that. That message, that helped me. So to those people, man, good on you. Really good on you. It's important to be doing physical exercise. Everyone should be doing that. But my training is coming along pretty nicely. I'm starting to get a few taps in BJJ lessons now. So yeah, it's going good, guys. I'm starting to get the taps. The head and arm choke. The head and arm choke is the only attack that I'm finishing with at the moment. But hey, the head and arm choke, that's a nice technique, guys. You know, working towards that. It looks like that's my most advanced at the moment, but finding the back of the opponent, I'm able to do that a lot too. Looks like I end up on the back a lot, but ultimately lose that position. So yeah, need to work on that, but it's coming along. It can only come along, guys. When you work on something, it only goes in one direction. I've posted a couple training videos recently on my Instagram. Got a lot of love and support on that too. So if you're one of those people who showed support, thank you for that. And my Instagram is on the screen right now. So if you've got Instagram, you want to hit me up outside of YouTube, you can do that too. So motivation and all that type of stuff this week. I want to speak about, I mean, this subject is going to be looked at straight away and thought, I do believe that, I don't believe that, right? Free will. Do we really have free will, guys? That's what I want to ask you guys, right? Let me know in the comment section. If you believe we have free will, let me know why. If you don't think we have free will, let me know why. My personal opinion is for 24, 25 years, I felt we did. I felt we had free will, but Man, I don't know, guys. Do we really? Do we really make our own decisions? Or is every decision we make predetermined based on the last experience we had? It sounds crazy because you're thinking to yourself, well, if I pick up this pen, I mean, I decided to do that. I fought for myself. I picked the pen up. But did you really pick the pen up because you felt, well, I'm going to do that to prove I can do that? Or did you pick the pen up because you listened to me say, do we have free will? See, that's what I mean. Did you do that based on the experience of listening to this message? Would you have done that otherwise? It's a weird thing to think about. I personally think we don't have free will. I know a lot of you guys are going to think we do, but it's going to be interesting for me to see the comments and see what people are thinking about that subject, because it's a trippy one. It is a really trippy one when you start to smoke and really think about life. So that's going to be the smoke break subject for this week. Do we have free will? Let me know in the comment section below. Alright, homies, I hope I gave you something to think about with that subject. Get high, smoke, think about life. Think about, are you making your decisions, or is it a predetermined thing that you're going to do next that you don't even know based on what you did just now? It's trippy. Alright, homies, enjoy the main event breakdowns. JDS versus Cyril Gane, and we're going to start with the Brazilian. So Junior Dos Santos comes into this fight 15 wins, 7 losses inside the UFC. A legend, a veteran, nothing but respect for JDS. Is he out of prime? Yes, he is. Is he still a dangerous heavyweight fighter? Yes, he is. He doesn't have the speed and power that he once did, but it doesn't take away from his boxing ability. His chin is also pretty done at this point too. Cyril Gane comes into this fight 3-0 inside the UFC, primarily a Muay Thai fighter. Nothing but impressive by Cyril Gane so far. The movement he displays for his size is unbelievable. The power in his body kicks, very damaging. He doesn't exactly specialise at putting you out with his boxing the way a Francis Ngannou would, but the size of him with the movement and speed, I wouldn't count it out. This man is very, very dangerous. The experience is with JDS. Could he outbox Gane over 15 minutes or even sleep Gane? If I had to pick between both of those, I'd say he outboxes Gane. But even then, man, it's difficult to see JDS going 15 minutes in the smaller octagon without getting hurt by Cyril Gane. Whether it's a body kick or a clean punch, I've got to side with the up-and-comer. JDS has the experience and the tools, like I said, but he doesn't really look for takedowns. You know, he's going to look to use his boxing. And if he does look to use his boxing, he's basically giving Gane that Muay Thai fight, that stand-up battle. So, yeah, I'm going to side with Gane via TKO in round number 2. The fight could go 15 minutes though. JDS has good movement and Gane could give him that respect, but if I had to pick between TKO and fight going the distance, I'm going to side with TKO. My numbers would be Gane minus 200, JDS plus 170. And the actual numbers, we have Cyril Gane minus 400, which is, wow, a lot of respect going on Gane this weekend. JDS coming back a massive plus 300, which is, you know, no respect. No respect for the legend. I would absolutely price Gane a favourite, but minus 400. Is he going to go in there and look like Francis Ngannou? Probably not. Minus 400 is a little deep. Kevin Home Alone Holland versus Jacare. It's one of our boys, Kevin Holland, Home Alone. Comes into this fight 7 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC. Man, 7 wins, 2 losses now. Time has flown by since that UFC debut for Kevin Holland against Thiago Santos. He's really evolved fight by fight. His ability to hurt the opponent at kicking distance, very noticeable. But if you look at the Buckley fight, even the fight against Anthony Hernandez too, Kevin was able to hurt both of those guys when they crossed that kicking distance. His striking really has evolved. The opponent, Jacare, comes into this fight 9 wins, 5 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a jiu-jitsu fighter. However, over the duration of Jacare's career, he's really become a nasty striker himself. I think it would be wise if Jacare chose to grapple in this matchup. I'm not saying he can't strike, because like I said, he really has become a nasty striker over time. But it's more of a plant your feet and go for the kill type of striking that you see from Jacare. And you can find a lot of evidence against Chris Weidman in that striking battle. But Kevin Holland, man, this guy is just very tricky on the feet. If both of these guys choose to kickbox, I see it going much better for Kevin Holland than Jacare. But the question is, will Jacare look to take down Kevin Holland and potentially submit him? I'm not going to say no, because he's definitely capable of doing that. But I'm not going to take that either. I believe in Kevin Holland's ability. He's only improved fight by fight. Yes, he is a big talker, but actions will always speak louder than words. And Kevin Holland, 7 wins, 2 losses since the debut. And his debut was against a nasty Brazilian with a lot of experience. He didn't win. I think this time he can. So I'm going to take Home Alone by a TKO in round number 1. I'm going to take it round 1. Let's go, Kevin Holland. My numbers would be Kevin minus 150, Jacare plus 120. Man, the name Kevin, guys, it gets me. It gets me every time. One of my subscribers was speaking to me on Instagram and he just said to me, yo, bro, my name's Kevin. And when he said that, oh man, like it's a funny name. It is. It just gets me. The actual numbers for this fight, minus 110 each side. You can't argue. Jacare, nasty guy, nasty grappling. Kevin Holland only getting better fight by fight. It's pick'em. It's a pick'em. I'm going to take Home Alone. Renato Moicano versus Rafael Fiziev. And we're going to start with Moicano. So Moicano comes into this fight 6 wins, 3 losses inside the UFC. A Muay Thai fighter, a Jiu-Jitsu fighter. Really has a well-rounded skill set. Moicano has moved to 155. He was always a big featherweight. Definitely not a small lightweight. He had a very good debut at 155. Did exactly what was expected. Displayed a higher level of ability. Wrapped up Damir Hadzovic like a gator. The opponent, Rafael Fiziev, comes into this fight 2 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Primarily a Muay Thai fighter. Fiziev is actually a striking coach at Tiger Muay Thai. He's a very experienced Muay Thai fighter. His kicking ability, one of the best I've seen in the UFC. Maybe not to the level of a Barboza, but still, very, very good kicking ability. This is a really good matchup for both guys. Moicano has a step up in competition at 55, and so does Fiziev. If this fight stays kickboxing, it should be close, but I think Fiziev is a better kicker, so I see the fight going more towards Fiziev if it does stay on the feet. Moicano, in my opinion, does have a clear grappling advantage. He should probably look to use that. For me though, I'm going to take Fiziev. I think he's able to keep this fight standing and prove he has got that experience when it comes to grappling. Tiger Muay Thai is a really good camp. I mean, the Muay Thai, they're very good, but they are training jiu-jitsu and wrestling too. The work rate at Tiger Muay Thai is very high, and I think Rafael Fiziev is going to prove that in this matchup. He's going to keep the fight standing and look to win his Muay Thai fight. If Moicano can still wrap up Fiziev and prove, hey look, I'm here to compete at 155, I would be very impressed, but the pick is going to be Fiziev via decision. I could see Fiziev getting a TKO, but Moicano, he's a good guy. I mean, he's only been starched really by Korean Zombie and Jose Aldo. Apart from that, he's been very good on the feet, so I could see this one going 15 minutes. My numbers would be Rafael minus 140, Moicano plus 110. And the actual numbers kinda close. We have Rafael minus 150, Renato coming back plus 130. I think those numbers are, yeah, they're good. They're good ones. I mean, you can bet Moicano, his price is at where it should be. Rafael, the same thing, his price where it should be. Absolutely no lies detected on this line. I like it. Co-main event, and what a co-main event it is, guys. Tony Ferguson taking on Charles do Bronx Oliveira. And we're going to start with the boogeyman, Tony Ferguson. So Tony comes into this fight, 15 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a crazy man. One of the best lightweights we will ever see grace the UFC octagon. Non-stop cardio. The output of Tony Ferguson is admired by every fighter in the game. We do have to speak about Tony's last fight though. Tony has always taken damage, but that fight was different, man. The damage Tony took in that fight was seriously bad. Way worse than usual. But he's a madman. You know, he's looking to take damage. He's looking to dish out damage. Non-stop is Tony Ferguson. How can you dislike this fighter? He's a madman. The opponent, Charles do Bronx, comes into this fight 16 wins, 8 losses, 1 no contest inside the UFC. Primarily a jiu-jitsu fighter. Do Bronx has definitely become a nasty striker too. You look at that finish against Jared Gordon, it really shows you that Charles do Bronx has some nasty striking. But without a doubt, the most dangerous part of this man's game will always be his ground game, his jiu-jitsu. This is a great co-main event. Tony Ferguson will be Tony Ferguson. So that means always walking forwards, constant kicks, elbow attacks, even searching for submissions if do Bronx looks for that takedown. Earlier this year, when Charles Oliveira fought Kevin Lee, I basically described Charles as an off-brand Tony Ferguson. He really is a similar type of fighter. I've been with Charles Oliveira during this whole climb to this point, and I've seen that evolution of his game fight by fight. I do think he has the ability to win this fight, whether it's taking Tony to the mat and having that type of battle, or even competing on the feet with the madman. I do believe Charles Oliveira can compete with Tony Ferguson. So for those reasons, guys, I'm going to take a shock upset win here. My pick is going to be Charles Oliveira via decision. I know a lot of you right now are thinking, man, I disagree. And that's okay. We can't always agree every fight, but listen, man, I've been with Charles Oliveira fight by fight. I went against him with Paul Felder. Since then, I've taken him every step of the way. Could he lose this one to Tony Ferguson? Absolutely. He really could. Tony Ferguson is one of the best we've ever seen. You know, he could get in there and just bust up Charles Oliveira, but I think Charles has come a long way, man. He really has come a long way, and I wouldn't be surprised if he had the performance of his life. My numbers, though, would still be very close, minus 110 each, because Tony Ferguson, I mean, the output, there's no question. He is going to come with violence. It's a question if Charles Oliveira can keep up, and can he dish out his own violence. I think he can, but it could get very interesting, because Tony Ferguson, we know who this man is. He's a madman. And the actual numbers, Tony Ferguson minus 170, Charles Oliveira plus 140. I like these numbers because these numbers show me that a lot of respect is going into Charles Oliveira. If you're only a plus 140 against Tony Ferguson, people are taking notice. They really are. Should Tony Ferguson be the favourite? Yes, I would agree with that. Minus 170, it is fair. It is really fair. Can't wait for that co-main event, guys. Let me know who you're taking on that co-main. You know, I know there's going to be a lot of Tony Ferguson takers, but I want to see my do Bronx takers. Have we got any? I think we have. Alright, main event, homies. If you haven't subscribed, please make sure you do that. Join the gang. If you haven't hit the like button, aka the hands up button, please make sure you do that too. Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. This is a good main event. Really good main event. And we're going to start with my boy, Figueiredo. So Figueiredo comes into this fight 9 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. A super well-rounded fighter. My breakdowns on Figueiredo pretty much sound the same all the time. but I can't really say much more, you know. Has a karate style at times, powerful boxing, a nasty jiu-jitsu game, good wrestling, scrambling ability, killer instinct. He really is just a nasty champion. He's coming off a win to Alex Perez just a few days ago. Made very quick work of that fight. Not really a competitive fight for Figueiredo. He's just that good. You know, he really is just a killer. There's nothing more you can say about Figueiredo. Brandon Moreno comes into this fight 6 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw inside the UFC. A jiu-jitsu fighter with some very improved striking. Moreno also getting a very quick turnaround since his last win. He defeated Brandon Royval. It's a shame that fight ended the way it did, but Moreno was looking good in that fight. His groundwork was looking very dominant. Moreno, like I just said, does have an improved striking game, but I don't think it'll be enough to match the boxing of Figueiredo. Moreno should probably look to take down Figueiredo in this matchup, and also be aware of that guillotine that Davison is going to threaten with when he chooses the takedown. Taking down Figueiredo is a task in itself. If Moreno is going to win this fight, it's probably picking up the later rounds. If Figueiredo is going to win this fight, it's probably finishing early. But I'm actually going to take something a little bit unpredictable here. I took Valentina to go 25 minutes with Jennifer Maia recently. I'm actually going to take this fight to go the distance. I'm just giving that respect to Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno is a very tough customer. He's very game to fight anyone. Tough as nails, has a really good skill set. So if Davison Figueiredo can't get this fight finished in the first or second round, this fight could get very close. You know, I think this is a much tougher contest for Figueiredo than Alex Perez or Joey Benavidez. So my prediction is going to be Davison Figueiredo via decision. I think round 1, round 2, Figueiredo could look very good. But Moreno, tough as nails. He's not going to quit in there. So if Figueiredo can get him out of there, it just shows even more. He's a nasty man. My numbers would be Figueiredo -200, -210, Moreno +180. And the actual numbers kind of similar to Figueiredo versus Perez. We have Figueiredo -300, Moreno +250. Can't argue. I mean, Figueiredo, so well-rounded. He has such a good skill set. Brandon Moreno isn't as skillful, but he has experience. He has improved striking. Is he going to come in here and cause a threat? I think he could. He really could. He's a game opponent. But overall, I've got to side with the fighter I've never gone against, and that's Davison Figueiredo. Alright homies, if you've enjoyed this breakdown, let me know below. And if you want to catch me outside of YouTube, we can do that on Instagram at ufcley. Alright homies, peace.